Hello from gorgeous Lake Tahoe, and thank you for joining me for the first ever virtual and 24th Annual Lake Tahoe Summit. I'm here at the historic Thunderbird Lodge on the East Shore, just one of the many special places here at Lake Tahoe. As a staffer for former Governor Bob Miller, I had the honor of helping put together the first Lake Tahoe Summit 24 years ago. And today I am so pleased to be hosting my first Tahoe Summit. We have an informative and entertaining program planned for you. Now, while we'd all love to be together at the lake, we have a diverse panel of speakers today that I hope will encourage you to join us in the effort to protect this beautiful place for the enjoyment of residents and visitors alike. We also will be sharing new information and tools to help us all work together to preserve the lake for generations to come. The theme of this year's summit is Resilient Tahoe, recognizing that resiliency comes in many forms. The resiliency of our environment to combat the impacts of climate change. The resiliency of our economy in adapting to new circumstances. And most importantly, the resiliency of our people who can adapt to whatever challenges come our way. Resiliency is key to sustainability, and over the decades, Lake Tahoe has shown its resiliency time and time again. Now, I'd like to thank everyone who has made today's summit possible, and the list is long, so bear with me. My colleagues in the Senate and House and both governors for continuing the commitment to this incredible place. The Lake Tahoe Basin Management Unit of the U.S. Forest Service, our Nevada and California land managers, and the many local jurisdictions represented in the basin. The many staff and volunteers at the Tahoe Regional Planning Agency, Tahoe Fund, and the League to Save Lake Tahoe. Our tribal nations, public land stewards, fire chiefs and firefighters, the many conservation volunteers, researchers, and citizen scientists who all work together to protect and preserve this glorious national treasure.
Waring wage ebe hamosukleo le wa lehuleo mileo wa angawa hutiwa wa eshiva miu hutiwa amwakaya ude hutiwa biba mdora ude ma anga kekela ash video wa anga wetha ge kita ge iwigo sagakom ash mila hutiwa anga weth ge ashiga bai gishwa ash eshibeti gishwa hele Waring, Meatlow, Liwa, Angao, Eth Shamo Kekela, Ashwidi, Lo Hakayali Lagi, Hakirish, Hakletla. Waring, Meatla Hutiwe Eshipishwe Kekela, Biu Hakmirish, Migieth Hakaleo Hakledish. Dinga Kelerashale, Ashkahamongangawa.
Thank you for that blessing. Now, the pandemic has brought incredible challenges to all of us, including here at Lake Tahoe. But we all should be thanking our frontline workers for keeping us safe during these challenging times. So I cannot thank them enough for everything that they do to keep us safe. Thank you.
Tahoe has always been a refuge and a cure for what ails you. In challenging times, we need Tahoe now more than ever. But Tahoe can't look after itself. Every year, 15 million visitors escape to Tahoe. 2020 likely won't be different. To make Tahoe resilient, it will take all of us, working together to take care of ourselves and Tahoe. It starts with the people on the front lines.
The people that I take care of are like family.
If one person can do one thing to help this environment, just do it.
I was just glad we can open. Everybody seemed really grateful that the restaurant was open at all because people just want a place to get out.
The leadership needed to care for Tahoe has many faces. Anyone can be a leader if you protect this special place, our home, our refuge. We must all leave it better than we found it.
Keep Tahoe Blue because it's a one-of-a-kind place.
And I want to see this place beautiful and people to be able to recreate here for forever. This place is magical. I take care of Lake Tahoe by
cleaning up litter even though it's not my own. making sure that my community is strong.
Being a member of the Blue Crew.
I take care of Tahoe by taking care of our youth.
This special place reminds us what we have, what we need, and that we're all in this together. The world is changing. Our commitment to Tahoe is not.
Together.
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 Together we make Tahoe.
We make Tahoe resilient.
Together, we make Tahoe resilient.
And now I would like to introduce my good friend and somebody who has been instrumental in protecting Lake Tahoe, the senior senator from California, Dianne Feinstein.
Hello, I'm Senator Dianne Feinstein, and I want to thank you so much for joining us for the 24th Annual Lake Tahoe Summit. This is a bit different. This year is obviously very different from previous years, but it's important that we all stay healthy and safe so we can come back together next year on the shores of this wonderful and beautiful lake. I'd like to thank Senator Cortez Masto for organizing this year's summit under these very difficult conditions. She has attended every summit since taking office, and I'm grateful for her unwavering commitment to our lake. While this summit may look different than previous years, the challenges facing us are just as great. As many of you know, the first Lake Tahoe Summit was held in 1997 when Senator Harry Reid invited President Clinton to hold a presidential forum at Incline Village. Some of you may have actually been there. After the 1997 summit, both sides, Nevada and California, came together to form an unprecedented public-private partnership that has endured to this day. I call that partnership Team Tahoe, and I am so proud to be a member of it. Team Tahoe has invested more than $2.4 billion in the Lake Tahoe Basin, including more than $790 million from the federal government. That money has funded nearly 700 restoration projects all around the basin. Each year, we try to list off some of Team Tahoe's accomplishments. And let me do this now. We have constructed 162 miles of bike and pedestrian trails. We have reduced the risk of wildfire on nearly 85,000 acres of forest. 1,757 acres, you'll be pleased to know, of streams and watersheds have been restored, and more than 87,000 boats have been inspected, and 40,000 have been decontaminated to keep invasive species out of this beautiful lake. And we've improved 832 miles of roads to prevent erosion and storm water pollution, which had been a big problem. Despite the tremendous success these projects have had in restoring our lake, we now face our biggest test. And guess what it is? Climate change. Climate change is already having a profound effect on this lake, and it threatens to roll back much of our progress. It's allowing invasive species to thrive, it's killing off trees, it's cutting off the snowpack, and it's reducing water clarity in the lake. Last year, the average clarity depth dropped to 62.7 feet, down a whole 8 feet from 2018. That drop is alarming to me because it clearly shows that climate change is slowing the progress we're making on the lake. While part of this decline can be attributed to other factors like lake mixing for the first time in 8 years, this has increased precipitation and the rapid growth of the mysis shrimp. It's also the result of warming temperatures, particularly in the summer months. So, for every step we take forward, climate change threatens to make us take 2 steps back. This is a call to action, and we've got to respond with urgency and science-based solutions. Team Tahoe has and will continue to answer that call. The enduring commitment between local, state, and federal governments and local business to save our shared lake has never been stronger. And it's going to take that resilient spirit to confront the new challenges facing Lake Tahoe. But we are up to the task. Thank you. Thank you so much for supporting Lake Tahoe, the jewel of the Sierras. And I look forward to seeing you next year at the 25th Lake Tahoe Summit. Thank you.
And now, join me in welcoming the junior senator from California and the Democratic vice presidential nominee, Kamala Harris.
Hi, everyone. It's a pleasure to join you for this year's 24th Annual Lake Tahoe Summit. I want to thank my dear, dear friend, Senator Catherine Cortez Masto, for hosting us this year in a virtual summit. And of course, my colleagues in Congress, and of course, Governors Gavin Newsom and Steve Sisolak for coming together for this time-honored celebration to support the Lake Tahoe Basin. I also want to thank the Tahoe Regional Planning Authority, the Tahoe Fund, the League to Save Lake Tahoe, and all the organizations for the work you do on behalf of the Lake Tahoe area. As some of you know, I have very fond memories of visiting Lake Tahoe as a kid, as I know many of us do. And so the reason for our work and dedication to the Lake Tahoe Basin is really quite simple: to ensure future generations that they can also enjoy this most beautiful part of our country. At its core, the Lake Tahoe Basin today serves as an example to the nation of how communities can work together to address the environmental challenges we face in this moment in time. Through your decades of tireless work, we've been able to improve the lake's clarity, revitalize the local economy, and make the region a major source of environmental research. Yet there is still so much more to be done, including facing a climate crisis that is banging on our doorstep and threatening the future of our nation. And make no mistake, this crisis will test the resilience of Lake Tahoe on everything from invasive species to wildfires. That's why your efforts to address water security, clean transportation, ecosystem health, and more is so critical. So thank you. And I look forward to continuing our work together on behalf of the Lake Tahoe Basin. Enjoy the rest of the summit, and take care.
And now joining us for our Lake Tahoe Summit is the junior senator from the great state of Nevada, Senator Jackie Rosen.
Hello, everybody. I'm Jackie Rosen, and I'm proud to represent the great state of Nevada in the United States Senate. I'm sorry we can't be together in person at the lakeshore for this critical summit, but I applaud Senator Cortez Masto and her team for their resourcefulness and ingenuity in deciding to make this year's, the 24th Annual Lake Tahoe Summit, entirely virtual. I want to take a moment to say thank you to the many organizations, agencies, and advocates who work tirelessly to protect Lake Tahoe, and especially to the Lake Tahoe Fund for organizing this summit and for all the incredible work you do every year to make sure that Lake Tahoe remains one of the world's most beautiful and wondrous bodies of water. Since 1997, this summit has been hard at work developing solutions to protect our beloved national treasure, Lake Tahoe. This collaboration is so important because protecting the lake is not only good for our planet, it's good for our state's economies. There's no doubt that we've made tremendous progress over the years, but there's still so much more we can do to ensure that the lake stays protected, healthy, and accessible to all. That's why I fought to preserve Lake Tahoe by advocating for robust funding of the Lake Tahoe Restoration Act, the LTRA. As we all know, the LTRA prioritizes funding for forest health and hazardous fuels reduction, watershed restoration, the Environmental Improvement Program, and invasive species management. And through appropriations requests, we've been able to secure millions of dollars to assist in Lake Tahoe's restoration and protection. This past year's FY20 Omnibus included an amendment that I offered with the support of my fellow Tahoe senators that would increase funding and provide over $4 million to combat invasive species in Lake Tahoe. I promise that I'll continue fighting in Congress to ensure that the LTRA is fully funded and this unique partnership can continue to thrive. I'm also working to protect the area around Lake Tahoe from threats that could disrupt the area's delicate ecosystem. Climate change and increased temperatures directly correlate to the growing intensity of wildfires. The longer that we fail to act to address climate change, the more costly and dangerous the impacts will be. I'm proud to support bold efforts to overcome the climate crisis, including through legislation that supports net zero greenhouse gas emissions and protects our public lands. I've co-sponsored the Stop the Spread of Invasive Mussels Act, which would help address and prevent the spread of aquatic invasive species in western waters, including Lake Tahoe. I've also co-sponsored Wildfire Defense Act, which would direct FEMA to establish a grant program for local communities to develop a community wildfire defense plan. We must do more to protect Nevada and California communities from the threat of costly and deadly wildfires that severely impact the Tahoe Basin. Legislation like this helps to empower our local communities by providing them with the resources needed to protect our environmental treasures. By investing in the lake's water quality, habitat, and ecosystems, we're also investing in the people who live and work in these communities. Lake Tahoe anchors a $5.1 billion economy and supports hundreds of local jobs. The Tahoe Basin is an important recreational resource, offering skiing, water sports, biking, camping, and hiking to approximately 15 million visitors each year. Supporting outdoor recreation and tourism is incredibly important, now more than ever, as our local communities are recovering from the COVID-19 pandemic. That's why I led nearly a dozen of my Senate colleagues in calling on Congress to provide robust funding for outdoor restoration and resilience jobs to help our outdoor tourism economy recover from the impacts of COVID-19. Not only does outdoor recreation serve as an outlet for individuals to enjoy natural spaces, especially during this pandemic, but it also creates opportunities for new jobs, stimulating the travel and tourism economy and supporting public health. Going forward, I know how important tackling transportation and infrastructure concerns will be for the continued protection and enjoyment of Lake Tahoe, particularly as the region grows and more pressure is placed on existing roads and infrastructure. I'm eager to work with all of you to find and support federal solutions and funding. Please know I'll continue to be your partner in the Senate to help address these important issues. Lake Tahoe is a vital part of our home states of Nevada and California, and we must continue working together to ensure that Lake Tahoe is around for generations to come. Rest assured that you have an ally in Congress. I will continue to work tirelessly to ensure that all of our states' national treasures remain protected. Thank you, and let's keep Lake Tahoe blue.
And next, someone who is no stranger to the Tahoe Summits, who's joined us so many times, the Congressman from the 4th District of California, Congressman Tom McClintock.
Hi everybody, this is Congressman Tom McClintock. I'm speaking to you today from the recently treated acreage that's part of the Defensible Space Enhancement Project here in the Tahoe Basin. A resilient Tahoe requires resilient forests, and resilient forests require active scientific forest management. A generation ago, we actively managed our forests to assure that tree density matched the ability of the land to support it. Every year, U.S. Forest Service foresters marked off excess timber and then sold it to the timber companies that removed it. Today, well-intentioned environmental laws passed in the 1970s make that process endlessly time-consuming and ultimately cost-prohibitive. An untended forest is no different than an untended garden. It will grow and grow until it chokes itself to death and then fall victim to disease, pestilence, drought, and ultimately catastrophic fire. It takes centuries for a forest to grow back and begin that cycle again. The megafires that have consumed millions of acres of the Sierra over the last decade are shouting a warning at us here in Tahoe today. You know, the Angora fire here in Tahoe in 2007 was our wake-up call. Lest we forget, less than 2 years ago and just 100 miles from here, the Camp Fire killed 85 people, destroyed nearly 19,000 structures, and utterly obliterated the town of Paradise. Now that fire was 50 times the size of the Angora fire. A similar fire here would mean the utter destruction of Tahoe's communities. And our neglected forests are no different than those that surrounded the town of Paradise on that day. And also, lest we forget, in 2019 and so far in 2020, there have been 70 fires here in the Tahoe Basin. Any one of them could have become Tahoe's Camp Fire, but for the vigilance of our basin firefighting team and the growing network of Alert Tahoe cameras that provide early detection before these fires can explode out of control. Now, we didn't hear about many of these fires because our basin fire departments got on top of them. A day will come when they'll miss one, unless we augment that thin green line with forest resiliency. Now, 4 years ago, a bipartisan effort achieved an important milestone toward that goal. We got a categorical exclusion from the National Environmental Policy Act that streamlines forest management projects here in the basin for fuel reduction. I'm told that's taken the time to approve these projects from years down to mere months, and the environmental reports from hundreds of pages down to just a dozen or so. I'm very encouraged to see the Lake Tahoe West project implemented, which will treat 60,000 acres, more than any time before, including nearly 20,000 acres of mechanical thinning under this new authority. The forest thinning will reduce the wildfire risk and improve forest health, making the forest more resilient to insects and disease and drought. I want to thank, on behalf of our entire community, all of the basin fire chiefs and their departments, the U.S. Forest Service Basin Management Unit, CAL FIRE, and the Tahoe Fuels Partnership, all of whom work closely as a team to protect this lake for our generation and the many generations to come. In the ongoing effort to keep Tahoe blue, it is their vigilance and professionalism and heroism that's the foundation of everything. Thank you.
And next joining us is another good friend to Lake Tahoe, somebody I've gotten to know and get to work with in Congress on a regular basis, California's Congressman John Garamendi, who represents the 3rd District in California.
John Muir, going to the mountains is going home. We know that, and so our family came to the mountains this weekend to find solace, to put the pandemic and all of the anxiety of the world behind us. And I suspect you have done that also. Unfortunately, we're not gathered today in Tahoe for another summit. But the pandemic has taught us some lessons. The lesson, actually you know that. It's the lesson that we can solve problems only when we work together as a community. The pandemic's not going to be solved by any individual or any city. It's going to be solved by a worldwide community effort. And that's the lesson that you know so well in Tahoe. Keeping Tahoe blue, maintaining the pristine nature of that lake can only be done as a community. And that's why you've gathered all these many years to protect Tahoe, because you see the strength of a community working together, whether it's forest health, erosion control, city and community planning, or reaching out for state and national support. You've learned the lesson of working together as a community. And we need to take that lesson and we need to expand it beyond Tahoe, because ultimately we cannot save Tahoe unless we save this planet from climate change. That's a task that will require the world community to solve. And the lesson that you have learned so well, we need to apply to climate change. So as we dedicate ourselves to the ongoing daily tasks of protecting Tahoe, developing the political, community, and individual support to do that, we need to also reach beyond Tahoe, need to reach beyond the state, beyond our national level to the world, and join the world in addressing climate change. In doing so, the best hope over the long term of protecting Tahoe will be found. So let us dedicate ourselves as we do this virtual summit to continue to work together as a community in Tahoe, in the basin, in the state, and in our nation, and simultaneously reach out to work with other communities around the world to address climate change. All the little things, all the big things, they're on our agenda, locally and globally. So let it be. I'm sorry we're not with you today, but I'm very happy that at least this is a virtual summit so that we're coming together virtually to once again dedicate ourselves to the protection of Lake Tahoe. Thank you so very much. And remember, going to the mountains is going home.
And joining us now is a congressman that I have known for some time. Even though he went to Carson High School, we'll still allow him to join us at the Tahoe Summit, Congressman Mark Amodei.
Hey Tahoe Summit folks, I'm Nevada Congressman Mark Amodei. I'm lucky to have two great Senate partners in Nevada's congressional delegation whom it's a pleasure to work alongside. Thanks to this year's sponsor, Senator Catherine Cortez Masto, and to my former colleague in the House, Senator Jackie Rosen. Thank you for including me in this year's event as we continue to focus on taking care of one of our national resource jewels. I thought we could enjoy a little commercial historical backdrop as part of this clip. What better than a water-based product whose slogan was, famous as the lake, Nevada's own Tahoe beer. It's not news that even a century and a half ago, Lake Tahoe was acknowledged as a uniquely special place. We are blessed to have the responsibility and opportunity to continue the work to leave our resource better than we found it. Thanks to all the agencies and organizations who are part of the resiliency team that is making a welcome difference for our lake and its basin. We can never say mission accomplished, but the mission endures. Take care and cheers.
Now, one of the things that makes Tahoe special is the bi-state partnership. And so I am so pleased to have Governor Sisolak from the great state of Nevada joining us today.
Good afternoon. Thank you all for being a part of this important conversation. I'm Nevada Governor Steve Sisolak. I want to start by thanking my friend, Senator Catherine Cortez Masto, for hosting this year's summit virtually, protecting and preserving one of the most beautiful spaces in the world, Lake Tahoe. It's become even more important during these difficult times. I'd also like to offer special recognition to the Tahoe Fund for their continued commitment year after year in helping make the Tahoe Summit a great success, and also congratulate the Tahoe Fund on their 10th anniversary this year. Congratulations. I commend the Tahoe Fund for their passion, dedication, and accomplishments over the last 10 years in bringing much needed private funding to the Tahoe Basin. Thank you all for the great work that you do every day. I'm grateful to Nevada's Department of Conservation and Natural Resources for taking the lead on a myriad of crucial initiatives. This work could not be done without all the stakeholders on both sides of the lake doing their part. I thank each and every one of you for the critical work you do to carry out every day to protect this spectacular natural wonder for all to enjoy. It's very appropriate that the theme of this year's event is Resilient Tahoe. Resilience is a defining characteristic of Nevada, and it is more important now than ever. We are all being challenged by the impacts of COVID-19, but I am confident that we will come back stronger and better than ever. Nevada remains committed to protecting and enhancing Lake Tahoe and working hand in hand with our federal, state, local, and private partners to achieve our mutual goals throughout the basin. The secret to success in Lake Tahoe is collaboration. I want to use this opportunity to highlight a few of our successes and our accomplishments on the Nevada side of the lake and to protect and enhance the environment since last year's summit. The state of Nevada, through the Nevada Tahoe Resource Team and partners, has completed stream restoration projects in 3 key microsheds: Rosewood, Third, and Incline Creeks. Restoration of these creeks will not only dramatically reduce pollution that denigrates the lake's water quality, they also provide critical ecosystem benefits to fisheries and wildlife in the basin. Wildfire remains a constant threat in Lake Tahoe. Nevada remains steadfast in addressing the threat of catastrophic wildfire in the Tahoe Basin through implementing forward-looking, forest-healthy projects on our state lands at Spooner Lake, in the Spooner Backcountry, and Van Sickle by State Park. These projects will reduce wildfire threats with an eye towards fostering healthy, resilient landscapes and ecosystems. I'm proud that the state of Nevada is planning future construction projects for visitor and recreation improvements at the popular Spooner Lake, Nevada State Park. The project includes a new interpretive center, amphitheater, trails, and parking improvements. Spooner Lake is the perfect setting for an interpretive center that will benefit both the local community and impress the many tourists from around the world who visit Lake Tahoe Basin every year. While it is important to celebrate our successes, it is even more important to have an eye to the future and to remain focused on future needs to protect this iconic lake. Climate action. During my first State of the State address, I said I would not spend a single second debating climate change. Nevada is taking aggressive action on climate change. Through my new State of the Nevada Climate Initiative, we are developing a roadmap for how we will reduce our greenhouse gas emissions and ensure we are bolstering the resilience of our state to the impacts of climate change. Last year, Nevada adopted the most ambitious emissions reductions targets of any Western state. Our goal? Net zero emissions from all greenhouse gas sources by 2050. And with the executive order on climate change that I issued last year, we're developing the policies to achieve this ambitious goal in Lake Tahoe and throughout Nevada, while continuing our everyday efforts to protect the Lake Tahoe Basin from the present-day impacts of climate change. We are fortunate that the same tenacity, innovation, and dedication helping get us through the COVID-19 pandemic will also ensure that we have the courage to make the hard choices necessary to protect our natural environment from a rapidly changing climate. Climate change will be a central and consistent theme in addressing every challenge and opportunity across all of Nevada, and specifically within the Lake Tahoe Basin. And critical to this effort, we must address transportation emissions. Transportation, it's a critical issue facing the Tahoe Basin. They represent the nexus to nearly every environmental and economic challenge within the Lake Tahoe Basin. While visitation to Lake Tahoe supports a multi-billion-dollar tourist economy, the increased number of visitors heading to Tahoe is causing more congestion and more parking shortages that impact the region's environment, its quality of life, and visitor experience. It is essential we create new options for visiting Lake Tahoe that allow you to leave your personal vehicle at home. I applaud the leadership from the Natural Resource Center, departments in Nevada and California for helping address transportation and transportation issues head-on. Transportation is a challenge that no individual entity can tackle alone, and this bi-state process represents the collaborative approach needed to solve one of Tahoe's most vexing challenges. Nevada and all our partners, we remain steadfast in protecting and restoring Lake Tahoe, the jewel of the Sierra. We have made substantial progress. In Lake Tahoe, the most significant accomplishments, the most significant changes for the environment, for the benefit, are not achieved by a single entity, but rather through active and robust collaboration. By working together in this basin, we're committed to fostering a cleaner, more resilient, and more prosperous future for all of us here and beyond Lake Tahoe. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Governor Sisolak. And now, another person who's instrumental in that partnership for the protection of Lake Tahoe is the governor from California, Governor Gavin Newsom.
Governor Gavin Newsom, I just wanted to express my appreciation to all of you for participating in this unusual virtual summit. Let me, in particular, thank Senator Dianne Feinstein. No one has worked harder than Senator Feinstein to raise our standards, to raise our expectations, to raise the bar in terms of what not only we're promoting each and every year at the summit, but what we deliver each and every year at the summit. It goes without saying the backdrop of climate change exacerbates all of the challenges that we have to face, but it also goes without saying the spirit that unites us here every year in the summit, this spirit of a bi-state, bipartisan approach to solving problems. That collaborative spirit is the antidote to any fear or anxiety you may have about our inability to deliver on our promises. We have agency. We can protect this basin and this lake for generations to come. It's decisions, not conditions, that will determine that fate and our collective future. I want to just express on a very personal level in closing that this lake is very meaningful to me in another respect. I remember being there with my grandfather, Bill Newsom, as a very young child, with my dad out there trying to fish for crawdads as a very young child. I had exactly that privilege recently with my son, Hunter, who was mesmerized by the same. That's 3 generations right there. And I can only imagine what Hunter may be with his son or daughter decades from now. And I expect he'll be right there with your kids and your grandkids, experiencing and enjoying one of Earth's most pristine, most magnificent contributions. And so thank you for your contribution. Thank you to the Regional Planning Agency and your 50th anniversary. Thank to all the unsung heroes, the volunteers. Thank you to our senators that are assembled and Governor Sisolak for your incredible partnership to advance this cause. Take care, everybody, and enjoy this summit.
Thank you, Gavin. Now, as the largest public land manager in the basin, the U.S. Forest Service plays a critical role in conserving the lands here and working with local partners to advance the many projects aimed at improving forest health. Here to update us is Pacific Southwest Regional Forester Randy Moore.
Thank you for inviting me to speak today. It is my distinct pleasure to be a part of the 2020 Lake Tahoe Summit. This year is unlike any other year in our lifetime in defining what public lands mean to the American people. In light of the global pandemic, the outdoors have become an oasis for many and brought tremendous numbers of new visitors to our national forests, especially in the basin. It is more important than ever that we manage the health of watersheds and forests around and within Lake Tahoe's communities, as well as foster responsible and sustainable recreation by the publics we serve. And yet, as we adapt, how do we uphold our responsibility to more effectively manage these lands around Lake Tahoe? The Environmental Improvement Program demonstrates our continued commitment to watershed restoration and fuel reduction projects. With our congressional leadership working on innovative legislation like the Lake Tahoe Restoration Act, few critical environmental projects would make it to the implementation. Working with partners like Liberty Utilities, Nevada Energy, the Great Basin Institute, and the National Forest Foundation, we've been able to accelerate the pace and scale of project implementation to reduce the threat of catastrophic wildfires and sediment flowing into the lake. The park and improvement projects along State Route 28 and the unveiling of the plan for State Route 89 have been successful by working with partners like the Tahoe Transportation District and the Tahoe Regional Planning Agency, amongst many others. Sustainable recreation has a direct connection between visitor experience and a healthy, resilient ecosystem. The character of Lake Tahoe's outdoor recreation is supported through actions of watershed health management and fuel reduction projects, which support the balanced physical, social, and economic system. Partners like the Tahoe Fund and the League to Save Lake Tahoe have provided a pathway for volunteers and others to take on stewardship opportunities around the lake and the forest. 9 federal agencies make up the partnership, which provide research, education, regulation, funding, and implementation of projects in the Lake Tahoe Basin. Through the Southern Nevada Public Lands Management Act, the Bureau of Land Management provided over $3 million to Lake Tahoe West and Upper Truckee Restoration Project. We are restoring the ecological resilience of Lake Tahoe through great scientific work by many partners, like the U.S. Geological Survey, which is predicting the clarity of Lake Tahoe, and the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, which is measuring the total maximum daily load. Everyone has a role to play in the resilience of the ecosystem they live in and visit. My hope is that with each trip you make to your national forest, it is with wonder and admiration, accepting the social responsibility to pack out the trash that you bring with you and to share in the stewardship of your public lands. In closing, I want to thank the employees on the Lake Tahoe Basin Management Unit for all their hard work. We cannot accomplish the work that we do without the dedication of our employees and our partners. There are many unknowns ahead with the pandemic, but we'll get through it together. Thank you.
Thank you, Randy. And now I'm so excited to introduce to all of you our keynote speaker, a native Nevadan, a good friend who calls Reno home, who learned to ski and become a world-class skier in the mountains here in Tahoe and is a gold medalist, David Weiss.
Hey guys, I'm two-time Olympic gold medalist David Weiss, and I'm so excited to join you for the Lake Tahoe Summit 24th annual, and I'm just humbled and honored to have been asked to speak here by Senator Cortez Masto. And I'm looking forward to talking to you guys about resilience. And one of the keys to me, a little life hack for resilience is that when you face adversity, when you face trials that you need to overcome, you need to do your best to recognize the things that you can control, or the things that are you sort of a way of stealing back a little piece of normal. So even though I have to deliver this address to you in virtual form because we can't all be hanging out, slapping high fives, you guys don't unfortunately get the opportunity to see and touch and feel my gold medals like you normally would at an address that I do. We still have an opportunity to take back a little bit of what's normal. So normally when I give a keynote, I bring my gold medals and let everybody hold them and touch them and see them, because I think it's cool to be able to share that. I really feel like those gold medals don't belong to me alone. They belong to us as a community, they belong to my family, they belong to my friends, my teachers, my supporters, my coaches, my parents, everybody who supported me along the way. So I like to share those with you guys whenever I get the chance. But I also always wear, something Olympic, because I don't want people to not know that I'm the Olympic skier guy, but I wear a blazer usually. So even though I'm delivering this address to you, I want you to know that I put forth the effort to put on my keynote outfit everywhere except for my feet. So steal back a little bit of normal where you can, but where you can, wear flip-flops. That's my life hack of the day. Resilience for me is an awesome thing to be able to talk about, because from an athletic perspective, my greatest heroes are not people who are defined by their highlights. The people I look up to the most are the ones who bounced back most quickly from injury and had a career that was defined by overcoming odds again and again and again. And if you watch SportsCenter, you can see just it seems like an unending crop of talent out there. There's people that are just so talented and so skilled and, you know, so impressive to watch. But the ones who are truly impressive are the ones who can be resilient at all times. So I love talking about resilience because my career has been defined by resilience. I feel like I've been through more injuries and more challenges I feel like I've been through enough, I'll say, challenges and injuries. But I'm going to tell a specific story about resilience that I think some of you may remember. It was my second Olympic Games in 2018 in Pyeongchang, and going into the finals, I was having the best day. I was practicing as well as I ever have. I was landing a combination of tricks that nobody else could do. And I knew if I landed one of my 3 runs, because my sport, ski halfpipe, is a best of 3 format. So any run can count, and any run on that day can win one of your 3 chances. So I knew my chances are pretty good with how well this practice is going. I'm going to land one of these runs, and I'm probably going to take home another medal, if not another gold medal. And I was just having the best day. Then I dropped into the first run, and I was having what I would say was just a blessed run through the half pipe. Everything was going so smoothly. I was almost having an out-of-body experience, just watching myself ski and just almost impressed, almost surprised at how well it was going. And then all of a sudden my ski came off for kind of no reason. And I got to pick myself up from the bottom of the transition and try to shake it off and say, I don't know why that happened, but it did. So I guess I'll ski down to the bottom and go back up to the top and try again. It's the best of 3 format, luckily. So I went back up to the top and I went to drop in for my second run. I was still feeling good. I was like, that first run was a fluke, no worries. I switched skis because I thought maybe those skis were unlucky or something. Dropped into my second run. Very first trick, same thing happens. Ski goes walking off out of frame and I'm just sitting there in the bottom of the transition wondering what happened. Now I've lost 2 of my 3 chances at doing my best in the Olympic Games. And I'm not going to pretend that I'm a hyper-talented individual, and usually I like the best of 3 format because sometimes it takes me 3 chances to even come close to landing what I wanted to land. So I was certainly feeling very nervous going into my 3rd run. Like, the pressure's all on this run. I have something that I want to do, but now I don't know if I can, or maybe I should scale back so that I increase my chances of landing. And I took a moment to myself and I just reminded myself, whether you win or not, whether you get another medal or not, you have a run that you wanted to do here at the Olympic Games. You've been planning for 4 years that I had wanted to do. And I reminded myself, that's what you're here to do. So whether it works out or not, that's what you need to go try and do. And so I kind of took the pressure off. I said, those things that happened before now are out of my control, and what comes next is only to be seen. So I dropped into the half pipe and had the best run of my career, got the highest score of my career, and won my second Olympic gold medal. It was a spectacular day and a story that I, first of all, hope never happens again, but also expect will never happen again. There's no way I'll ever have that epic of a moment. It was the greatest moment of my sporting career. But it was defined by resilience. It was defined by overcoming adversity. And nature, I think, has demonstrated resilience to me better than anything else. Nature has a way of taking things that seem hard or challenging or just immense obstacles like wildfires and earthquakes and floods and things that seem catastrophic and repairing them over time. And all of a sudden, 5 years later, you look back at a fire landscape or where a flood came through, and it looks as if it never happened, or it actually looks in some cases better because nature is resilient. And I have had the good fortune to travel the world for a living for the last 15 years. And being born and raised, learning how to ski at Sky Tavern and in Mount Rose and all around the Lake Tahoe Basin, I took for granted as a young person the beautiful place that I lived. And I just kind of thought it was normal. I thought that everybody had cool mountains to hang out in and a beautiful lake to swim in. And I didn't realize what I had until I started to travel, and I went all the other places in the world that you're supposed to go, all the most beautiful places in the world, and I realized, wow, this place is beautiful, but it's not as beautiful as Tahoe. In doing so, I realized, wow, I live in the best place in the world, and I have a personal responsibility to take care of that place. So my message to you right now is that we're kind of on the third of our best of 3 run format. Nature is resilient, and Tahoe has put up with a lot of the abuse that we put it through. And our climate in general has put up with a lot of our crap. But we also have to put our skis back on, and we have to land that last run. We have an opportunity to land that last run, and that's what we need to do. So from a personal level all the way through a systematic, policy level, we have to make changes that are going to be good for both the place we live on a local scale all the way up for the place we live on a planetary scale. We have to do better, and we can do better. So that's my statement to you guys. Thank you guys for listening to me. Thank you for being part of the Lake Tahoe Summit, and it's our last run. It's a best of 3 format, and we have the opportunity to land the best run of our lives right now in terms of protecting this beautiful place. Thank you guys.
And thank you, David, for that incredible, inspiring keynote speech. We thank you so much for joining us here at Lake Tahoe as we all work together in a by state way to protect this beautiful lake. We are here at the Lighthouse Room at the beautiful Thunderbird Lodge, and I can't think of a better place for me to talk with Dr. Monica Arienzo. Thank you for joining us. We're going to talk a little bit about microplastics and the impact it is having not only on our lake, but our water supply that we see across the state of Nevada right now. And so thank you for joining me today. Let me just tout a little bit about her background. She's the assistant research professor at the Division of Hydrologic Sciences at the Desert Research Institute. And she has earned a doctoral degree in marine geology and geophysics from the University of Miami. And so I have to tell you, I'm going to ask her, before we get into the microplastics and what we all need to do to understand how it's impacting our water supply and how we can be better stewards as well, and all play a role in addressing this issue. Monica, if you would, tell me a little bit about your science story, because I think this is a great, incredible background that you have, and I'm so excited that you chose Nevada to be your home now and the work that you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Senator, for inviting me up here today. It's a wonderful opportunity to get to speak to you. I've always loved the environment. I've always been, an outdoors girl, camping, hiking, my entire life. So when I realized that I could study geology, do all of those things I love, camping, hiking, that for me was really what drew me to studying the environment. Mm-hmm. And I've been really lucky. I've had wonderful mentors all along the way who have helped me and guided me throughout this process of becoming a scientist. And that's been a huge inspiration for me, or all the other women scientists that I've gotten to work with.
You've had other mentors, that women scientists as mentors that have helped you along the way?
My undergrad mentor was a wonderful woman, female geologist, and she continues to be a mentor for me.
And geology, why geology? What was it about that science that?
That's a great question. I think for me, what drew me to geology is the time component. You can study so many parts of geology, right? You can study the beginnings of the earth, all the way, you can study fossils and all the way to today. And I think that's why I chose geology.
Yeah, and do you think there's more opportunity to really get young girls engaged in science and really talk to them about the benefits of science and how you can make this a career and really be a part of their future and protecting our environment as well? And so is that something that's important for you as you continue your career as a scientist?
Yes, that's very important to me. I not only am a researcher, but I'm also a teacher. So I teach at DRI, and I mentor students. And for me, it's incredibly important that we encourage diversity in science. It's important not only to provide opportunities for everyone, but also it's important to provide diversity of thought, so we can create new and very diverse solutions to the complex problems that we're going to be facing in the future.
Yeah, and I also think that there's a lot of young kids, just in general, who are not exposed to the opportunities, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think many people think a scientist has to look a certain way, and hopefully I can represent something a little different.
Well, I think you do,
like.
and I think you do. So let's talk about why we're here today, and what's your concern. And how did you discover that there were microplastics here in the water, and why is that a concern?
In 2018, I attended a conference, and I was listening to a scientist speak about how they had found plastics in Greenland. And I was shocked to learn that they found plastics in Greenland. So I came back to Reno, and I was thinking about, well, if there's plastics in Greenland, where else could they be? Could they be local? And so that is what started us on this journey to look at microplastics. And I got very lucky. I one day ran into my two colleagues, Megan and Zoe, and I mentioned to them, I heard about this thing called microplastics. Do you think we should do some more research in this? And that little conversation sparked us putting our heads together and thinking up this idea to look locally. And so the approach that we've been taking to look at microplastics is to think about microplastics in the Tahoe Basin as a whole. Okay. So we've been looking at microplastics from the snow down to the streams, to the surface waters of Lake Tahoe, and then looking at sources like pipes, stormwater pipes that drain into the lake.
Okay.
And so we've taken that approach so we can have this, bigger basin-wide scale of understanding the problem of microplastics.
And so for many people that even live here and in California, they don't realize that Lake Tahoe in this basin is a water supply for many people around here. And similar to Southern Nevada, where Lake Mead is the water supply, and you have identified, or there's been identified microplastics in the Las Vegas Wash that drains into Lake Mead for that water supply. So why is that a concern? What impact does it have to lake life as well as humans if those microplastics are in our water supply?
As far as the impacts to aquatic life, there are some studies showing that microplastics can have negative health effects for organisms when they consume plastics. And like you mentioned, we have been interested in looking at not only Lake Tahoe, but the water that flows from Las Vegas to Lake Mead, the Las Vegas Wash. And we've been studying fish that live in Las Vegas Wash to see if they have plastics. And unfortunately, we did find that some of the fish did have plastics in their stomachs, and that's something we're still working on continuing into this fall to understand, are there any health effects and how many plastics are inside of them, and those types of questions. As for the human health effects, there are no known health effects of microplastics to humans, but I think it's an area of continued research, and we'll keep researching that into the future. And I think it's important that we do know if there are or aren't.
Right. And so if you would, talk about how you're identifying them in the work at Desert Research Institute, and how that plays a critical role in the research that you're doing around microplastics. So for the layperson, so explain to us what you're doing to discover and the techniques and tools that you use.
So we are using a range of different techniques and tools. To study the fish, we go out and we collect the fish, and we work with an aquatic ecologist who helps us with that. For the lake, we've been looking at the surface waters of the lake. So what we do is we either have our sample bottles that we bring out and we collect those samples. In this case, we sometimes collaborate with the League to Save Lake Tahoe to use their volunteers to help us collect those samples. And what we've done in that case is we've tapped into a citizen science approach, where their pipekeeper volunteers go out and collect samples for us and bring them back to the lab. And that's a wonderful opportunity to engage the public in our research. So solutions to microplastics, I think, is going to be a fairly complex solution. Okay. And what we're hoping is that our science can help inform policymakers, help inform water managers, and help inform local community members. So what we've really been focusing on is working with those community members and policymakers to help understand what are the needs. What questions do our communities have about microplastics? And how can we use the science to help them understand or find solutions? So we've been surveying local policymakers, we've been surveying local water managers and other community members to understand what are their concerns about microplastics and how can we use the science to help them solve those needs and develop informed science and actionable solutions.
And so part of the goal here is education, right? So educating that it is happening and educating the public. And so how can we, the public, play a role in addressing this issue? I mean, obviously it is a concern, the level of microplastics in our water supply and is a concern for many of us. So what should we be doing? What do we know? What can you tell the public in general?
So we refer to this as your microplastics footprint. So how can you reduce your microplastics footprint? And we recommend kind of the most obvious thing, but is still a problem, is to not litter. And the work we've seen from the League to Save Lake Tahoe and Clean Up the Lake demonstrate how there's still a lot of trash being left on our beaches and in our lake. And so that's the first thing I would say is don't litter, especially cigarette butts. Those are the big ones. Cigarette butts very quickly degrade and they can form microplastics very quickly.
See, people wouldn't even know that. I would not even realize that. So there's microplastics in just about everything, right?
Yep.
Is that right? That's not
synthetic
or man-made, right?
So big macroplastics can, what we call macroplastics, the big stuff, that can break down then to form microplastics. So if you leave your cigarette butts, if you put it out in the beach sand, very quickly, right, that's going to break down and form those little bits of plastic.
Okay. So plastic bottles as they erode, everything else because plastic seems to have a long life that we are finding. Right?
Yes, exactly.
And now we're going to have to learn to live with it, and we've got to figure out how we decrease the impacts of it because we don't know its impact to our lake life, as well as humans in general, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yep.
That's incredible.
And other recommendations we give are, these days it's a little bit harder, but carpool if you can. That helps reduce tire wear and tear, which we know is a source of microplastics. Limit how often you wash your clothing, because every time you wash your clothing, you're producing microplastics in that water that comes out of your washing machine. And hang dry your clothing when you can, because we've been studying how the drying cycle might emit plastics as well. We've been employing a method called citizen science. So what we do is we working with the League to Save Lake Tahoe and their Pipe Keeper program. We've given our volunteers 4 of these aluminum bottles, and we've asked them to go out and sample stormwater. And so this is these are pipes that flow into Lake Tahoe, and we want to know if those pipes are a source of microplastics. So as a scientist, I have my responsibilities in Reno, teaching, mentoring, doing research, and so I can't be up here checking stormwater pipes. So the beauty of bringing in the citizen scientists into our research is that they can help us with that. And then they're engaged in our research. And hopefully that can be another form of education we can also do, is by communicating our science and involving people in our science.
Citizen scientists. And if it's the perfect example is if we want to get, again, young kids and individuals involved in science, this is a perfect way that they can participate and partner with a scientist to figure out what is happening with our lake. So that is wonderful. Thank you. I so appreciate you being with me and all of us today. First of all, let me just say thank you for all of your work. And very quickly, the partners that you have on working with you, please identify the partners that are working with you on this, because I think this is so important for Nevadans to understand.
Yeah. Because in our research, we're really interested in making sure our solutions are actionable solutions. We wanted to make sure we were partnering with those local organizations. And we're so lucky. We work in a place where people really care about the environment, right? There's a lot of stewardship already going on. And so we've been partnering with the League to Save Lake Tahoe, trying to engage the citizen scientists in our work. We've also been working with Clean Up the Lake and UC Davis Turk. And with them, we're trying to understand what is the trash that is being that has been put into the lake, and we're trying to identify the type of trash and quantify how much trash there is down there. So it's very exciting to get to work with all these different wonderful organizations.
Well, that is wonderful. So everybody who's listening, if you want to participate, you want to get involved with this issue, reach out to Dr. Monica Arienzo. She's done an incredible job. All of the partners are fantastic. This is an important issue for our water supply, not just here in Lake Tahoe, but in our state as well. And Doctor, I cannot thank you enough for all the good work that you're doing. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you.
We gather today, as we have each year for nearly a quarter century, to rededicate ourselves to working together to protect this incredible lake and the life that depends on it. As the name of this year's summit reminds us, Tahoe is strong and resilient. Born from a lava flow that cut off the Truckee River, the lake here is 24 million years old. It's withstood flames and floods, drought and disaster. And the enduring beauty of this place is even more important as Americans cope with the coronavirus pandemic. Like so many Nevadans, I'm relying on the healing power of being outdoors right now, whether to enjoy a sunset, tend to a garden, or walk off the cares of the day. Natural places like Tahoe give us relief from screens and scrolling. They remind us that just as nature is resilient, so are we, and we can get through hard times. But just because Tahoe is resilient doesn't mean its strength is limitless. This year, Tahoe had more visitors in April than it usually has in the high season in July. The COVID-19 crisis has helped remind us how valuable the outdoors is to our health, emotional, physical, and spiritual. And that's exactly why we need to work even more diligently to protect open spaces and those who work to maintain them. We need to strengthen the lake and the communities that depend on it so that it can endure the challenges of the future. One of the biggest of those challenges is the climate crisis. We're already seeing the changes that are going to make Nevada and California hotter, drier, and more prone to wildfires. The climate crisis threatens all of us. It's going to take a toll on our health as more Nevadans feel the impact of hot days and heat stroke. It will cost our economy too, from its effects on our recreation and tourism industries to the costs to farmers and ranchers. And all of these impacts fall hardest on the most vulnerable in our communities, seniors, children, and communities of color. Plastics are another burden on the lake. As the Desert Research Institute and the League to Save Lake Tahoe explained at last year's summit, even our admiration for this place challenges it. The many people who are drawn to Tahoe by the beauty of its landscape also put pressure on the lake, its small towns, and the surrounding ecosystem. Newcomers to Tahoe may not know how to move through it without leaving traces, which is why education about native wildlife and how to care for nature is so important. Longtime residents and visitors alike contribute to traffic and pollution. So our job is to continue to work, not just on the waters of the lake itself, but also the surrounding environment, its creatures and its people. We need to make sure that everyone can enjoy Tahoe. That means those who work and live in lake communities have affordable housing options, up-to-date transportation to get around, and yes, good-paying jobs. Through my Innovation State initiative, I'm pushing for more resources to help workers who want to work in a changing economy. I'm advocating for 21st century solutions to decrease congestion on roads, encourage electric vehicles, and develop the infrastructure to support smart growth. In making all of these policies, I consider how they promote resiliency at Tahoe. I'm also working to increase investment in affordable housing and all kinds of clean energy technologies. And I want to help fund the infrastructure that we need to support innovative public works projects. All of this is easier when we rely on cutting-edge technology to help us develop new solutions like University of Nevada, Reno's Alert Wildfire program, which uses cameras to remotely monitor for wildfires. I'm proud to have urged federal agencies to release $350,000 in grant money to UNR for that program. Many other organizations are pushing hard on innovations of their own. They're harnessing the power of science and technology to monitor and improve the natural environment. Scientists at the Desert Research Institute are working to learn exactly how plastic microfibers are reaching the lake's water so that we can prevent that pollution stream. But good old-fashioned people power helps too. The Tahoe Blue Crew sponsors community volunteers who pick up trash and discourage littering. And the Tahoe Regional Planning Agency, the lead agency in charge of environmental programs for the lake, has dozens of resources to help residents, businesses, and organizations get involved, including through the Tahoe Basin Sustainable Communities Program. All of these projects help us protect this lake so that we can continue to enjoy its gifts far into the future, and so that we can honor its historic past with the same reverence and respect the Washoe natives of Nevada's Great Basin area have shown it for thousands of years. I've proudly supported legislation to revitalize Tahoe, and I know we can copy the successes that we've seen right here at the Lake Tahoe across the country. I've proudly supported legislation to revitalize Tahoe, and I know we can copy the successes that we have seen right here at the lake across the country. At the federal level, I'm fighting for the future of our natural spaces and the cultural treasures they contain throughout America. That's why I voted for the Great American Outdoors Act, which will help maintain and permanently and fully fund the Land and Water Conservation Fund so that we can continue to invest in our public lands and our outdoor recreation future. Just this past spring, the LWCF contributed funds to support a joint effort of Nevada Division of State Parks and the Tahoe Fund toward developing a new visitor center trails, a new amphitheater, and other infrastructure at Spooner Lake. As I said earlier, Lake Tahoe is millions of years old. Thousands of years ago, maybe tens of thousands of years ago, humans first arrived here, drawn by the bountiful wildlife and greenery that drew life from its waters. Over time, more people found solace at the lake and began to call Tahoe their home. Humans have tasked Tahoe, but we have also protected it. We get to choose which path to take. The future of this resilient and stunning place is up to us. Let's work together to make sure its cold, clear waters last another 10,000 years.
Everyone has a role to play in making Tahoe resilient. An easy way to help is to reserve the first ever Tahoe coin, which is being created at the Nevada State Museum's Carson City Mint. The silver coin commemorates 50 years of the Nevada-California partnership creating the Tahoe Regional Planning Agency. Proceeds support environmental education. You can also purchase a Tahoe license plate from California or Nevada's DMV. Or support any of the fine organizations that help keep Tahoe resilient. Visit takecaretahoe.org. Thank you to the sponsors of the 2020 Lake Tahoe Summit and all who made this virtual event possible. Special appreciation goes to the Thunderbird Lake Tahoe and the Tahoe Interagency Executive Steering Committee Summit Group. Together, we can make Tahoe more resilient.
We all know how important a place like Lake Tahoe is, now more than ever. While the world changes, our commitment to Tahoe remains stronger than ever. Join us in keeping Tahoe blue. Together, we make Tahoe resilient.